Heart at the Hazbin Hotel, Chapter 12. This is a continuation of the weekend Hart is having with Lizzie, and I will give a fair warning now that I may have cried writing this chapter. So I'd grab a box of tissues just in case. Anyway, song featured in this chapter, I Do Adore by Mindy Lendhill. Chapter 12, Karaoke Night Visitor. Hart's Point of View. I woke up in the morning, well, it was more like afternoon now, and stretched. I was confused at first why I was on the couch, but I remember Lizzie coming into my bed and passing out there last night. I guess I should check and see if she's okay. I got up and headed it to the room and saw Lizzie still asleep on my bed. She was spread out across it. I remembered that she was a bed hog, so I'm glad I wasn't there to her to climb all over me. I walked to her and shook her arm. "Lizzie," I said, but got no response, so I shook her again. "Lizzie," I said again, but a little louder. Lizzie started to stir a little. She lifted her head and perked her ears up. She blinked her eyes open. She let out a groan. "Oh, shit," was all she said, and let her head go back down. "Lizzie, get up. It's not even morning anymore. We slept in," I told her as I shook her again. All right. Just stop moving me around," Lizzie said groggy. "We still have to go out for tea," I reminded her. "It can be our little lunch thing today." "Oh, yeah." She sat up, but only under her elbows. "Maybe something can help me with this hangover," she said, and she grabbed her head. "Possibly. Now get up and clean yourself. I'm going to get a shower and get dressed." I walked over to where I left the bag on the dresser and grabbed some clothes for the day. I walked down the hall to the bathroom and jumped into the shower. As I washed off, my mind went to what I did last night. Part of me actually felt ashamed for doing it. I broke my promise to myself to save that for Alistair, but at the same time, I didn't know if that would ever happen. Either way, I had calmed my urge and was satisfied, at least for now. I could never speak of it to Alistair. I had to stay my secret. I didn't want to hurt his feelings about me doing such a thing, especially since I had imagined him the entire time. I finished getting cleaned up and jumped out of the shower and got dressed. When I walked into the hallway, I saw Lizzie was still on my bed, although she was sitting up now and clutching her head. She definitely had a hangover. "You going to be okay to go out?" I asked her just in case. Lizzie waved me off. Yeah, I'll be all right." She slowly stood from the bed. "Let's get going." She walked past me and into the living room. I gave my hair one last dry off with the towel and threw it on the rod in the bathroom. We headed out of the house and walked down the road. Lizzie knew where my favorite shop was, but at the same time, I knew she wasn't all there because of her hangover. Soon we arrived at the shop. We went inside and ordered what we wanted. I wanted to get myself some tea and probably something small to eat since it was technically lunchtime now. We got our orders and decided to take a seat outside. Lizzie just groaned and her head rested on her hand on the table. "This tea better help." "Don't worry, you'll definitely feel better afterwards." I took a bite of the bagel I ordered. I watched as she slowly sipped at her tea. Lizzie wasn't a fan of tea either, but preferred it over coffee. It was an okay day, besides the turf war going on a little ways away. I saw an explosion cloud puffing into the air. I didn't mind the turf wars as much as I used to. They were still annoying, but I didn't mind them as much. Almost entertaining in a way. Wow, was Alistair rubbing off on me? I gave a small laugh around my cup at the thought. "What's funny?" Lizzie asked. "Nothing. I was just thinking of stuff," I told her. "Like?" Lizzie was pushing for an answer. I gave a small chuckle again. I was thinking about how I find turf wars entertaining now. Lizzie sat up straight when I had said that and gave me a funny look. "Yo, Hart, you feeling okay?" She waved her hand in front of my face. "You crazy or some shit?" I knew she would react this way, so I just gave her a smile. "I'm fine, Lizzie. I was laughing as well because I was thinking of how Alistair was rubbing off on me a little bit." Lizzie let out a tiny laugh. "Sister, you're really changing. It's weird, but at the same time, I'm glad." She took a sip of tea. "As long as you don't turn into a cannibal as well, I think we're good." I looked at her confused. "Cannibal? What are you talking about?" Lizzie raised an eyebrow at me. "He never told you?" I shook my head. Lizzie sat back in her seat and shook her head in disappointment. "Fuck, that's a rumor I've heard many times about Alistair." I feel that if Alistair is or was a cannibal, he would have told me, I told her confidently. Oh yeah? I'm sure there are things that he's never told you. Things you found out on your own. She leaned forward a little on the table. What about that dream you had? That dream with Alistair being human? He never told you about how he looked as a human. He never told you he used to kill people, was a serial killer. I looked down at my tea as she talked. Maybe she was right. Lizzie pointed a clawed finger at me. I bet he doesn't want to tell you about stuff because otherwise he'll scare you. He'll push you away. He doesn't want that. Maybe he does it because he truly cares for me. He just wants to give me some time. Plus it would be a lot to handle at once, I assumed. If you say so, ask him, see how far it gets you. You've been with him almost a year and he's still a mystery to you. She drank the rest of her tea. You know what I think happened that night when he tasted your blood? It triggered him. It triggered that darkness deep inside himself that keeps hidden from you. That bloodthirsty side. I sighed in frustration. Next time I see him, I'll ask. I didn't know what to believe. Maybe my sister was right. There was only one way to find out, but that would have to be for later, when I saw Alistair tomorrow. I gripped my cup for a moment. My mind was just all over the place with all this. There was one thing I did know, though. No matter what Alistair would tell me, I'd always love him. Lizzie took out a cigarette and lit it. Anyway, sorry for snapping at you. You know, I'm only looking out for you. I gave her a smile. I know, and I thank you for that, Lizzie. She took a hit of her cigarette. So, what do you want to do today? Well, I had the idea of going to one of my favorite little bars. I haven't been there in a long while, plus it's karaoke night, I said as I threw my arms up with excitement. Oh, shit. Lizzie put a hand on her muzzle. Heart, you know I don't like karaoke. I know, but I want to enjoy the time. Plus, I haven't been to it in a while. Please, Lizzie, just this one time, I begged. Lizzie sighed. Fine, but just for today. I smiled wide. You won't regret it. Yes, I will. It was a little later in the day. Lizzie and I were walking to where I was to go tonight. We headed down a small street in a quiet place of town. Not many demons out, which was nice. The little bar was my favorite. It was usually filled with nicer demons. Still some drunks, but at least it wasn't overwhelming. We turned down a little alleyway, and there was a little neon sign at the end of it. I turned to Lizzie. Welcome to the Raven. I'm letting you know now, I am not singing, Lizzie said as she crossed her arms. I won't make you. Now, drinks on the other hand, I know you'll enjoy that. The bartender, his name's Jason. He is like the best there is, I told her. I'll take your word for it, Lizzie said. I looked down at the end of the alleyway, and I thought I saw a shadow. I assumed it was one of Alistair's watching over me still. This one seemed bigger than the one I saw yesterday, though. I ignored the thought, and we headed inside. We walked in, and rock music played as the bad sound of a demon singing hit our ears. Just a great start to the night. Me and Lizzie sat at the bar. Behind the bar was a spider demon. He juggled bottles around using all four of his arms and made drinks before we could blink. Jason, I greeted him as I waved to him. The spider demon looked at me and smiled, not losing focus on what he was doing. He put all the bottles down and came over to us. Hey, Hot, is that you? Man, it's been a while. Jason greeted and looked at Lizzie. Ah, you must be her half-sister. Lizzie, right? That's me. Now, are you going to get me a shot or what? Lizzie said grumpy. Sorry about her, Jason. I dragged her in today. I apologized. Hey, no worry. He waved me off. Tell you what, first shot's on the house. For you, Hart, and your beautiful-looking sister, he said. Thanks, Jason. I replied and he walked off for a moment. I heard Lizzie growl low in her throat. Jason is always like that. Don't worry so much. He says kind words to people, I told her. Whatever. She took out a cigarette. Can you smoke in here? She asked me. I shook my head. No, if you want to smoke, you have to go outside. Fuck, man, this is lame. She put the cigarette in her pocket for later. Jason returned with the shots and even had one for himself. Cheers, ladies, he said, and he downed the shot. I took my shot and downed it as well. Lizzie took hers, downed it, and then put the shot down for some force. I'm going to smoke, she said, and quickly walked out. What got shoved up her ass? Jason pointed. She doesn't enjoy karaoke, so this is probably annoying to her. No worries. A few more drinks and she'll be loosened up. I told him. Sometimes they get to those who hate it, but a few drinks later, they're up there singing their hearts out, Jason said with a laugh. I laughed as well. That's very true. I stood up from the bar. I think I'm going to go sing now myself. Have fun, Jason cheered. I walked up to the person doing the karaoke and requested a song. No one else was up, so I was next to go after the person currently singing. I stood close by, looking around the room for a moment. The way the karaoke was set up was you were facing the back of the room. Then I saw in the corner of the room that shadow I had seen earlier at the end of the alleyway. I almost didn't want to believe the shape of the shadow. Before I knew it, Alistair stepped out from the wall. He was in the far corner in the darkness, so no one saw him. He looked at me and put a finger to his lips to say, "Be quiet." Was he actually here? Why? My eyes never left Alistair's form. I had an idea. If he was here, I wanted to show him that I still cared for him. I knew the best way to get to that man's heart. I turned to the karaoke person and changed my song. They were okay with that and hurried to change my song for when I was up. The person singing ended, and then it was my turn. I slowly walked up to the microphone and grabbed it. I wanted to say something. I knew no one in the room would care, but mainly I did it for Alistair. Before I start, I want to tribute this song to someone special. Someone dear to my heart. I want them to know, I looked up and looked at Alistair with loving eyes, that I still love them. I saw him smile, even with the darkness surrounding him. The song started.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Everything you do, it sends me higher than the moon. With every twinkle in your eye, you strike a match that lights my heart on fire. When you're near, I hide my blushing face and trip on my shoelaces. Grace just isn't my forte, but it brings me to my knees when you say hello. How are you, my darling? Today I fall into a pile on the floor. Puppy love is hard to ignore. When every little thing you do, I do adore.
And then saw in the corner of my eye Lizzie walking back in.
As different as can be, I've noticed you're remarkably relaxed and I'm overly uptight. We balance out each other nicely. You wear sandals in the snow in mid-July. I still feel cold. We're opposites in every way, but I can't resist it when you say hello. How are you, my darling? Today I fall into a pile on the floor. Puppy love is hard to ignore. When every little thing you do, I do adore. Finding words, I mutter, tongue-tied, twisted, foot in mouth. I start to stutter. Heaven help me. Hello, how are you, my darling? Today I fall into a pile on the floor. Puppy love is hard to ignore. When every little thing you do, I do adore. Every little thing, ba-ba-ba-ba. Every little thing, ba-ba-ba-ba. Every little thing you do, I do adore.
I finished the song and some clapped. Even saw Lizzie clap twice. I saw Alistair lightly clapping as well for me. With him hiding, he didn't want to be heard. I knew he liked it when I sang, and hopefully with the song, I got my point across to him. I put the mic back on the stand and walked to the back of the room towards him. As I got closer, he turned and walked down the hallway that was to his left, past the small curtain. I didn't know if people were allowed back there, but I didn't care because I followed him. I pushed past the curtain, and the room was a small private type room, or just a room they just didn't use anymore. I saw Alistair sitting on one of the couches in the room not far off. His legs crossed over each other as he sat back and his mic came in hand. "You sang beautifully, my little wolf," Alistair stated as soon as I noticed him. "Alistair? Is it really you? I asked as I walked up to him. In the flesh, darling, he answered as he spread his arms out to me. I see your wound is healing well, he said, pointing his mic cane in the direction of my face. It is. It's much better. I shouldn't have a mark, so that's good, I said, a little uneasy talking about it. Why are you here? I wondered. He stood up from the couch and walked up to me, putting his mic behind his back. I backed up slightly, but my back was up against the wall. He was right in front of me now. I looked up at him and into his crimson eyes. I wanted to see you. I'm glad I did, because your little song touched my dark heart. I blushed a moment and played with my hands. Plus, I wanted to give you something. I couldn't wait because I really wanted to give it to you. Oh, a surprise? I like surprises, I said, excited. Alistair laughed. Indeed. I actually had Charlie help me out. He leaned down till he was right in my face. I have something to ask of you first, he said seductively. The way he said it made a shiver go down my spine. What do you want me to do? I whispered. He took a long pause, and I started to feel sweat on my face. I want you to kiss me, he finally said in a whisper. I froze for a second. Was he testing me? Did he see if I would do it? To be honest, part of me didn't want to, but my entire being was screaming at me just to do it. Why? Why was this something I had to think on? I loved kissing him. I knew I took too much time thinking, because he noticed. I can see the wheels turning in your head, my dear. I didn't know you needed time to think about this. He stood up straight and brought his mic to the front of him. I saw him tighten his grip on it. Looks like you lost your faith in me after all. I heard the disappointment in his voice, and he took a step back from me. No, that's not true. I grabbed him by his jacket and pulled him forward and placed a kiss on his lips. He seemed to resist me at first, but eventually he seemed to ease up. He made his mic disappear, and he wrapped his arms around me and pulled me close to him. I wanted to show him that I still cared, that I trusted him. I wasn't afraid of him. I couldn't be. My grip on his jacket tightened slightly. I didn't want him to go. He decided to make the kiss deeper by forcing his tongue in my mouth, and I gladly let him in. My mind was lost in this amazing kiss. He was more careful this time compared to the last time we kissed. I was surprised next when he picked me up, stopped the kiss in the process, and my back was pressed up against the wall, and he made my legs wrap around him. My hands were still on his jacket. I was at his height now. I could say nothing as he leaned in again and kissed me, making out with me right away. I was almost out of breath. What was happening? This was all so new. He never did this to me. Did he miss me that much? Or was it just a way of apologizing? Either way, I didn't care. This kiss was amazing. The feeling going through me were off the charts. The urges I had calmed down last night were slowly starting to creep back. No, I had to stop them. I didn't want them to cloud my mind with lust, but I was failing. I was falling very fast. My mind clouded and my heart raced more. I started to really kiss him back. Either he didn't notice or didn't care, but I slipped my hands down from the collar of his jacket to his small buttons. It was hard to always see them, but they were there. I managed to undo them and spread open his jacket. My mind was fully clouded. My mind went racing. My urges full on. I honestly didn't realize what I was doing. My hands seemed to move on their own. I rubbed my hands up his chest and to his shoulders. I slowly started to push his jacket off. He then seemed to notice. In one motion, he let go of me, pulling away from the wall, and I fell to the floor. I landed with a loud thud on my butt, but I laid on my side, and in the action of doing this, my mind seemed to snap back to its reality. I gasped and sat up slightly onto my elbows. What have I done? I looked up at Alistair, and I saw him backing away from me. He almost seemed to be afraid. Al, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I got up onto my knees. I lost control of what I was doing. I tried to apologize to him. You went too far, was all he said in a deep whisper. Alistair, please. I didn't mean to, I said as tears started to fall from my eyes. This is exactly what I never wanted to happen. I pushed him too far. I pushed him into something he was uncomfortable with. I started to force him into something. The radio demon went and fixed his jacket and redid his buttons back up. He He looked away from me and sighed. He put his hands behind his back. My shadows have been watching over you. It saw what you did last night. I then felt so embarrassed. Then I got a wave of anger. That's invasion of my personal privacy. Alistair wasn't fazed by my anger. I know. It left not long after you started. It knew not to stay. It only caught the beginning of your erotic actions. It's none of your goddamn business to know what I did. I'm not ashamed. I pointed a finger at him. I did it way before I even fucking met you. I realize that. I understand you have certain urges, but that's something I can't give to you, Alistair said slightly. I looked down and sighed. I know. And I'm okay with that, though. I'm satisfied with what I have. I'm sorry for what I just did. I knew better, but my mind was clouded by lust, Alistair finished. I felt ashamed, embarrassed. I hated myself. I clenched my hands in the fists at my sides. I was half tempted to punch myself right in the face. Alistair broke the silence. Darling, I'm going to have to go away for a while, Alistair finally said. I stood up slowly. Go? Why? Alistair looked up at me. He showed nothing, but I knew this was hurting him. I feel we should be apart for a little while. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. More tears started to fall down my face. My ears went back and my tail wrapped around me. When will you be back? Alistair took a long pause, then said, I don't know. I'm hoping before the next extermination happens. That's about a year. I don't know if I can wait that long for you. Why so long? My tears continued to fall. If I don't come back after the extermination, I probably won't come back at all, Alistair said. I could have sworn my heart cracked at those words. Won't come back? I whispered. Alistair continued, If so, my dear, I want you to try and keep going on. I don't want to hold you back from falling in love again if you do. There's no way I could. I love this man more than I ever have anyone before. He gave me a reason to stay in hell. Hell was my heaven as long as he was with me. Without him, I don't think I could live here anymore. Alistair, I love you. What did I do wrong? I asked through my tears. I love you too, darling, but I'm afraid of you this time, he admitted. My eyes went wide and my ears stood up slightly from his words. Afraid of me? He nodded. I can't give you what you desire. I can't give you what you need right now. These actions of yours I can't be around for, he told me. I got a wave of anger back. Then why the fuck did you just kiss me like that for? What you were doing was hints to me saying you wanted more. It makes my body tingle, I admitted to him. I don't know any better. I didn't realize what I was doing to you. I don't have those same urges as you. I've never experienced them. I don't know what they feel like, Alistair explained. I took a step towards him and reached my hand out to him. Then let me show you. He stepped back. No, I can't let you do that. I must find my own way. I feel that that's just right for me to do this on my own, so that when I come back, I can give you what I want, when you want it. I don't want it, though, I screamed. I'm fine with what I have with you. I'm content. Your actions tell me otherwise, Alistair said coldly. I stopped and put my hand down. Maybe we just both are confused then by our emotions and what we want. I looked up at him. Why are you really here, Alistair? I'm here to say goodbye, the dear demon told me. That's my surprise? I asked, angered. No! Alistair turned and walked back towards the table he originally sat at. He reached down and pulled out a little box. He walked back over to me and handed the box out to me. I wanted to give you this. I slowly lifted my hands and took the box from him. You want me to open this now? If you wish. I took the lid of the box and opened it. I was shocked about what was inside. I reached in and I pulled out a little doll. Not just any doll. It was one that looked like Alistair. I looked at it and caressed it with my fingers. I felt more tears falling. Alistair walked up to me. I made it for you, so that when we are apart, you'll still have me around. I looked up at him. He cupped my cheek in his hand. I even made one of you, my little wolf, for myself. That way, I'll always have you too. My great buck. I jumped at him and wrapped my arms around him, being careful of the doll in my hands. I didn't want him to go. This wasn't fair. It's all my fault that he's deciding to do this. All my stupid actions and words. My mind makes me do stuff. I was so angry with myself for letting it happen. I pushed the man I loved too far, and now I pushed him away for good. He actually wrapped his arms around me and put his face in my hair a moment. He started to pet my head. When you return to the hotel tomorrow, I won't be there, he said. What about Charlie? What about running the hotel? I asked him. She said it was okay. She understood, Alistair answered. Alistair, please don't leave me, I said as I cried into his chest. I can fix this. I can fix myself. I have to. I feel it's for the best. For now. If we want to fix ourselves, then we must be apart. I cried harder into him. No, it's not. I don't want that. I can do this without having us being apart. I'm sorry, Alistair whispered, but I can't. I have to be away. He pulled me away from him. He leaned down and placed a kiss on my forehead. Goodbye, my love, was all Alistair said. Alistair, please. Then he slowly disappeared as a shadow. Alistair! I stood alone in the empty room now, my tears starting to fall. I started sobbing. They started rocking my body, shaking it uncontrollably. I slowly fell to my knees. Why? Why did this happen? I'm so sorry, Al. I didn't mean for this to happen. It's all my fault. All my fault. Never again will I do something to hurt him. I wish I could have made him understand. I looked down at the little Alistair doll in my hands. I brought it close to my chest. I didn't even hear the person come into the room. They yelled my name, but I had the world block out. My heart was too busy breaking. Heart! I heard it now. Heart, what happened? I felt my shoulder being shaken. I jumped in shock and looked up at Lizzie. Heart, what the fuck happened to you? I heard her ask. My tears continued to fall. Alistair. That's all I was able to say. What about him? Lizzie got on her knees in front of me. What the fuck did he do to you? I kept crying. My sobs got stuck in my throat. Heart, calm down, Lizzie said and wrapped her arms around me. Tell me what happened. I tried to calm down, but I honestly couldn't. He's gone. I managed to stutter out. He left me. I'll kill him, Lizzie whispered, and then she held me tight. What? Why did he do that? It's all my fault, I cried out. Heart, no, it's not your fault. Nothing is. It's okay, Lizzie said as she tried to calm me down. I felt myself just starting to shut down. My emotions were becoming a blur of depression that started to just fill me up. I want to go home. We can. Come on, let's go, Lizzie said as she helped me up. I had stopped sobbing. My tears still fell. My mind raced. It wouldn't stop. Why did he have to do this to me? I didn't feel safe anymore. I couldn't do anything now. Alistair was gone. Who knew when he'd come back? If he did decide to come back at all. It's all my fault. All because of my selfishness with my sexual intentions. I hated myself so much. I held the doll Alistair gave me close to myself. We walked out of the bar and made our way down the street. My mind had shut down. I felt like an empty shell. Before I even knew it, we were back at Lizzie's house. She opened the door and she led me inside, took me to my room, then sat me on my bed. Lizzie kneeled in front of me. Heart, are you going to be okay? I shook my head and held the Alistair doll close to me. Lizzie growled and ripped the doll out of my hands. If I knew her, she'd rip it to shreds. No, she can't take that from me. That made me lose it. It was the only thing I had from Alistair right now. A gift from him I'd always treasure. Give that back to me, I yelled and demanded. Tears starting to fall down my face. Please, Lizzie, it's the only thing I have of him right now. He gave it to me before he left. I slipped on my bed and onto a pile on the floor as I sobbed. Please. I saw Lizzie give me a look of sadness. She was feeling bad for me. This is probably the worst she has ever seen me. I was literally being broken on the floor. My heart was already shattered. She handed the doll back to me. I gently took it into my hands and cradled it close to myself. Heart, try and go to bed, okay? Lizzie told me. I nodded, not trusting my voice. She patted my head. If you need anything, just let me know, alright? I nodded again. Lizzie stood up with a small sigh and headed out of the room. She closed the door behind her, but left it slightly ajar. I lifted myself from the floor and just laid in bed on top of the covers. I held the doll close to myself. As I started to cry again, I felt the weight of the world on me. I no longer felt safe. I didn't feel like I belonged. Everything that kept me grounded to this place had just vanished before my eyes like a shadow. Alistair, why? Why did you do this to me? Why did you leave me alone? Was I actually a part of his game after all? Had I dreamed everything up just to make myself feel good? Feel wanted? I don't understand. Lucifer, help me. I had to go back to the hotel tomorrow. How could I even contribute now? I don't know if I can function. I don't know if I can even stand walking by Alistair's room without bursting into tears. Being in the same hallway as he was. Too many memories. Too many good times. I honestly don't know if I could go back. I don't know if I could even be in my own hotel room. I pulled out my phone from my pocket and looked at my lock screen. It was an Alistair on the couch in the lobby. He was reading a book and the fire reflected off of him. Who knows when I'll see this handsome man again? I had to hold on to the memories I had. I opened my photo gallery on my phone. Almost every photo was of me, Alistair, or both of us together. He had gotten used to just taking selfies together. He was okay with it. I flipped through the pictures and went to my very first one. Alistair and I's first date. I stared at the picture. Just looking at it, memories returning from me. Our first kiss as well. The lyrics of the song were still in my head. Soon I felt my eyes grow heavy with exhaustion. All my feelings and crying had taken its toll on me. I was feeling tired. Soon I went into darkness, my phone still open on the pillow beside me. The Alistair doll is still close to my chest. Third person point of view. Charlie sat in the lobby of the hotel, Maggie sitting next to her as she had an arm wrapped around her. Once Alistair had told Charlie that he was going away for a little bit, she started to cry. Alistair did a lot for this hotel. He helped her get it off the ground. He made it look the way it did. Charlie was going to miss him being around. Also realizing that he wouldn't be around cooking anymore. At least, who knows how long he'll be gone. He didn't say. He didn't tell her. All he said was he was leaving. He had to leave. To find himself. To get away from everyone for a little bit, for a time, so he could go on a self-finding quest. Also, to find a way to help Hart with needs he couldn't provide to her. Of course, Charlie wasn't going to question his actions. He was a demon overlord, after all. Even so, Charlie's mind automatically went to Hart. He went to say goodbye to her. But she could only imagine how hard she was taking it. The poor girl. Charlie felt her phone go off in her pocket. Someone was calling her. Vaggie unwrapped her arm from her as Charlie pulled out her phone from her pocket. She looked at the ID. It was Lizzie. Charlie answered. Hello? Charlie? Lizzie made sure. Yes, Lizzie, what's up? Charlie asked. Lizzie took a pause. Charlie, Hart isn't doing so well, she finally said. Charlie sighed and sat back on the couch. I had a feeling that she would be broken from all this. This was just so out of the blue as well. It even caught me off guard. Charlie, I haven't seen her like this before. I've seen her through some things, but this is probably the worst I've seen her, Lizzie told her. It's not like he broke up with her. He just got up and left. You think she'll be okay coming back tomorrow? Charlie wondered. To be honest with you, Princess, no. I don't think so at all. She probably won't really want to be there, Lizzie admitted to her. I guess when she comes back tomorrow, can you wait here, if you wish, to see what she does? Charlie suggested. I might have to, Charlie. I know this might sound bad, but she probably won't want to be there at all if he isn't. I realize that. It's even hard for me too. He did so much for me here. But I must keep running the hotel. It is still mine, whether Alistair is here or not. Did he say how long he'd be gone? No, all he said that he would come back within a year. If he wasn't back by the next extermination, he probably won't come back at all. He can't do that. If he had feelings for my sister, he'd come back. I'll kick his ass when he does. He deserves it. I won't stand for this shit when it affects my sister in this way. She loves that motherfucker and he does this to her. This is why I say that love is pointless down here. It never fucking lasts. Lizzie hung up the phone in anger. Charlie winced a moment and pulled the phone away from her ear. She looked over at the moth demon girl beside her. What should I do, Vaggie? Charlie asked as she put her face in her hands. Vaggie laid a hand on Charlie's shoulder in comfort. Charlie, there isn't much you can do. Alistair did this to himself. He caused this. You can't control him or force him to come back. Alistair has his own free spirit, nor can you control how Hart feels through all this. I know, Charlie said disappointed. I just hate to see her all upset. I can't do anything to help her. It'll be hard, but we can make it through without Alistair. Plus, he keeps his word. He'll be back before we even realize. Vaggie reassured her. I hope so. Otherwise, I feel something might happen if he doesn't come back. Especially to Hart. He changed her mind about hell. She stopped her rehabilitation because of him. She always says that she was the happiest she's ever been down here. Charlie paused a moment. That reason for all that just left. How she reacts, I don't even want to think of what she'll do. If he doesn't come back, I feel I might have lost another soul and a friend at the same time. Charlie started to cry again. Vaggie wrapped her arms around Charlie and held her close. There was nothing anyone could do. No one knew where Alistair had gone. No one knew when he would come back. All they could hope for was that he would come back soon, not only for everyone's sake, but for Hart's as well. End of chapter 12. Okay, so I just want to make a note that, by the way, the ending of this was so improvised and I liked the idea, so I just kept with it and just kept going. It does suck, yes, but I feel it was appropriate. Just to be clear, so it's not too confusing, Alistair is leaving on his own free will. After realizing he can't satisfy Hart the way that she wants, even though she is fine with what they have, he has become uncomfortable with her behavior even though he still loves her. He didn't want to leave. He wants to be separated for a while so they can both clear their minds. Think about what they want. How to be better. Will Al come back? Only I know. And you have to stick around to find out.